Hello there, Lester Yanovich here for a special edition of Wednesday's Wonders. However, first things first, let me just check here. Let me see. Yes, we are appropriately socially distant. Speaking of that, by the way, my wife is rather enjoying this social distancing thing. Why, just the other day she looked at me and she said that she is feeling much better and sleeping much better now, just knowing that I'm 6 feet away from her. Well, I took it as a compliment, of course, although there have been times when I've wondered just what she really meant by that. You know what I mean. But anyway, let's get to business here. I have to admit, when this whole thing first started, well, I was quite the denier. I thought, oh God, here we go again, another media-generated crisis just to get us all riled up and sell more tickets to the rodeo. Well, I know that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, but you know what I mean. Another one of those kinds of things. And then, as time went on, I thought, well, okay, perhaps there is something here, but come on, it's just a cold. So I was minimizing things. I thought it's just a cold. Everybody gets a cold every now and then, so just blah, 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 go on, let's get on with it. However, things since then have come to my attention that have opened my eyes just a little bit. I think the first thing happened was a few days ago. I was standing here and I was tired of it, and I thought, well, I'm going to go down to the local libation station and meet with some of my cronies and maybe chat about this whole business and such. Well, of course, much to my surprise, once I got there was a big sign on the door that said closed due to Coronie infestation. Well, I stood there in awe for several minutes thinking, well, now what am I supposed to do? Stay at home with my wife? My God, if the cronies don't kill me, she'll have me dead within a fortnight. So I just pouted a little bit and turned around and walked back home, just wondering what the hell to do from that point on. And then later, just a couple of days ago, I was sitting here, standing right here, watching the telly, and the governor came on. Oh, this must be important. The governor was telling me, shelter in place. Well, what the hell does that mean, shelter in place? Now I got it. We're playing an executive game of Simon Says. Shelter in place means red light, and go about your business means green light. Red light, green light, red light, green light. Well, I stayed there and I sheltered in place for days. And he never once said green light. Well, after a while, I got, a little bit antsy and quite bored, and I just looked at the telly once he was on, and I said, screw you, governor, and went out and about and did my business. And that's when it really happened. That's when I came back here to this very spot. I was having a bit of a liquid empowerment, if you know what I mean, while I was pondering things. And I looked over on my shoulder, and there was one of those little crony marauders standing right there erect on my shoulder with some shit-eating grin on his face, waving at me. Well, I immediately tried to swat him off, and he ducked and maneuvered around, and I kept swatting and swatting and swatting, and he just kept ducking and moving. Finally, I took my finger like this, and I just flicked him off my shoulder, and he flew, and he landed right on his little butt, 4 or 5 feet away from me. Well, that little bastard, he just got up and he wiped his little ass off a little bit. He turned around and looked me sternly in the eye and gave me the finger. Well, I was in awe. Then he high-stepped it out to the door, turned around again, looked me sternly in the eye once again, and gave me the doggo finger. And he said, and I quote, I'll be back, but I'll bring more. Well, I immediately went to the door and slammed it, and I thought to myself right then, I need a plan. I have got to find a way to protect myself from these crazy cronies that are trying to invade my home. So with that, it took a day or so, not too long, and I came up with a plan. But the one thing that occurred to me that sometimes in crises, people just go crazy, and I thought we need to keep some civility about ourselves. Maintain our civility and our humanity in the world. So I came up with a 3-tier program. The first step of the program is I thought, well, perhaps these little crony dudes, they don't know they're not welcome. And so I thought, well, I think it's only fair that we give them notice that they are not welcome. So I came up with what I call official crony-free zones. And for a small price, you yourself can buy the official crony-free zone sign. Now you'll notice this sign is weather protected, so it will last for years. All you have to do is plant one of these in your front yard, get another one planted in the back, or buy a whole box and put them on all your doors and windows just to let these little fellas know they are not allowed, and perhaps they will just turn around, go to your neighbor's house where they belong. That's right. Now, what do you do with these little fellas that are too stupid to read? Or the foreigners that don't read our language? Well, there's another problem. So, I thought once again we need to keep our civility and start slow here. So I adopted a program that I remember from the 90s. It was started, I believe, by Nancy Reagan, and they started a program called the DARE program in schools. Highly effective program that was meant to keep our children off drugs and alcohol. Well, we all know how well that worked out, so if it worked out that well, sure to God, it will work out for this. So the basic premise of this plan, or this program, is just say no. So when you're confronted with one of these little cronies, you just say no. Think of it as similar to those pesky little Girl Scouts that come about this time of year, you know? And for example, when they knock on my door, they might come in a little herd of them and such. Well, I open the door and I'm very polite and I look them directly in the eye and I put my finger up and I just say, no thank you, I'm not in need of your services today. So I think if we do that with the Coronies, if we just look them in the eye, politely say, no thank you, I'm not in need of your services today, perhaps they'll understand and they'll politely turn around and walk away and go to your neighbor's house where they belong. But what do you do with those like this little bastard that was on my shoulder that don't care about signs and has nothing to do with civility? What do you do about those little things? Well, I've had my team design a highly engineered new product. I call it the Flap and Slap. That's right. It has dual purposes, flapping and slapping. So, once again, when confronted with one of these little rambunctious little fellas, and they don't understand the whole idea of civility and such, first of all, I still think it's only fair to give them warning. So that's when you flap it. Point it out. You're not welcome here. Please leave. But when they don't, what do? Now, ass. Oh, you know what I was going to say there. And if they come in pairs, well, you'll notice that this highly designed device has two sides. That's correct. It was designed with two sides. So when they come in pairs, see, that's all you got to do. Then those that are around, they'll move along. But then you're thinking to yourself, I know what you're thinking. What about the little rambunctious guy there? What if they come in a gang? Well, if they come in a gang, I suggest you buy 2 flap and slaps. You forget the whole flap method then. You just go to the slap method. So when they come in gangs and they surround you, I want you to think of yourself as one of those little ninja soldiers with those little nummy chuck things. Okay? And then you get into mode and you look them all directly in the eye and you get real quiet and then all of a sudden you go, why? That will get their attention, won't it? And those that are not laying on their floor, they'll look at you and they'll shelter in place for just a moment themselves before they turn around and run their little asses out the door and go to your neighbor's house where they belong, by the way. So with that, I hope you'll keep all of that in mind and give it a try at home. And look up my website if you can find it. I can't find it, but surely it's out there somewhere. And see if you can purchase a flap and slap of your own or your own Coronie-free zone sign. Very official stuff here. Now, before I go, let me just say one more thing. When it comes to a crisis and turmoil like this, sometimes people just go crazy and wig out and such. But, you know, despite all of this stuff, there is still beauty in this world. And much of that beauty, well, it's right here at home. So I'm going to suggest to you that since you have the time, why don't you take the time to just find some of that beauty right there at home? I mean, do something simple. Take a bubble bath with your wife, have a food fight with your kids, get off the phone, have a conversation, tickle a toddler, do whatever you need to do. There's thousands of ways. Just, you have the time, so find the beauty and take advantage of what you have at home. With that, I'm going to leave you for the day and hopefully see you again for another edition of Wednesday's Wonders.